There is a man you've probably seen before, not in real life, but somewhere online. His profile picture hasn't changed in years. While everyone else updates their photos every few weeks, new filters, new moods, he stays the same. At first glance, it seems like he's outdated, maybe even careless. But if you look deeper, there is something powerful about him. Something rare. This man doesn't feel the need to constantly prove himself to the world. He is not chasing validation. He is not measuring his worth through likes, comments, or reactions. His identity is not built on temporary attention. While others are busy asking, do I look good enough today? He has already answered that question for himself a long time ago. Most people today are trapped in a cycle of approval. They wake up, take pictures, edit them, post them, and then wait. Wait for someone to notice. Wait for someone to say you matter. But the man who doesn't change his profile picture has escaped that cycle. He's realized that real value doesn't come from being seen. It comes from being solid. He understands something that many people don't. Consistency is power. Not the consistency of posting, but the consistency of character. He doesn't need to reinvent himself every week because he knows who he is. And when you truly know who you are, you don't feel the pressure to constantly update your image. Think about it. Why do people change their profile pictures so often? It's not always about fun or creativity. Sometimes it's insecurity. It's the silent hope that maybe this time people will notice more. Maybe this time I'll feel important. But that feeling never lasts. It fades quickly and the cycle begins again. The man who doesn't change his picture has broken that cycle. He has stopped outsourcing his self-worth. He doesn't refresh his identity because his identity isn't fragile. It's built on something deeper. His values, his discipline, his mindset. There's a quiet confidence in him. Not loud, not flashy, but strong. The kind of confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. He's not trying to impress strangers. He's focused on improving himself. While others are busy curating their image, he's building his reality, and that's the difference. One man is busy looking successful. The other is busy becoming successful. In a world obsessed with appearances, this man chooses substance. He understands that changing your profile picture won't change your life, but changing your habits will. Changing your mindset will. Changing your discipline will. He invests his time where it actually matters, learning, growing, working, failing, and trying again. He knows that real progress is invisible at first. It doesn't show up in pictures. It shows up in results. People might underestimate him. They might think he's inactive, boring, or irrelevant, but they don't see what's happening behind the scenes. They don't see the early mornings, the late nights, the sacrifices, the focus. And he's okay with that because he's not performing for an audience. He's building for a future. There's a lesson here. You don't need to constantly update your image to stay relevant. You need to build something real, something strong. Something that doesn't depend on attention. Ask yourself, are you changing your life or just changing your picture? The man who doesn't change his profile picture teaches us patience. He teaches us that not everything needs to be shared. Not every moment needs to be posted. Some growth is meant to be private. Because when the results finally come, they will speak louder than any picture ever could. And one day, when people finally notice him, it won't be because he changed his profile picture. It will be because he changed his life. There comes a point in life when a man realizes that attention is cheap but respect is earned. And the man who doesn't change his profile picture understands this better than most. He knows that chasing attention will only make him temporary, but building himself will make him timeless. While others are busy being seen, he is busy becoming. He watches the world carefully. He sees how quickly people rise and fall based on trends. One day they're viral, the next day they're forgotten. He sees how fragile fame can be when it's built on shallow foundations. And instead of joining that race, he steps back. He chooses depth over noise. He chooses purpose over popularity. This man is not against growth or change. In fact, he believes in evolution, but not the kind that is visible on the surface. His transformation is internal. It's in the way he thinks, the way he reacts, the way he handles pressure, failure, and success. While others upgrade their pictures, he upgrades his mindset. There is something powerful about a person who moves in silence. No announcements, no constant updates, no need to prove anything, just pure focus. That silence is not emptiness, it's preparation. Because real growth is often quiet. It happens when no one is watching. It happens when there are applause, no recognition, just effort, discipline, and patience. And most people can't handle that silence. But he can. The man who doesn't change his profile picture has built a relationship with solitude. He is comfortable being alone with his thoughts. He doesn't need constant distraction to feel alive. He doesn't scroll endlessly looking for something to fill a void, because he has already filled that void with purpose. He understands something that many people ignore. Distraction is the enemy of greatness. Every time you focus on how you look instead of what you're doing, you lose energy. Every time you seek validation instead of improvement, you delay your progress. But this man protects his focus like it's his most valuable asset, because it is. There's also discipline in his decision. It might seem small, just a profile picture, but it represents something bigger. It represents control. Control over impulses, control over the need for approval, control over the urge to constantly update himself for others. And discipline, when practiced consistently, becomes power. Most people wait for motivation to act, but this man doesn't rely on motivation. He relies on routine, on structure, on habits that keep him moving forward even when he doesn't feel like it, because he knows something important. Motivation is temporary. Discipline is permanent. You won't always feel like improving yourself. You won't always feel confident. You won't always feel strong. But if you build discipline, you don't have to rely on feelings. And the man who doesn't change his profile picture has mastered this. He doesn't act based on mood. He acts based on purpose. There's another reason he stands out. He is not easily influenced. In a world where people change themselves to fit trends, he stays grounded. He doesn't copy others. He doesn't follow blindly. He takes inspiration, but he never loses his identity. Because you lose your identity, no amount of attention can bring it back. And that's what makes him dangerous. In a good way, he is independent. He is focused. He is self-aware. He doesn't need the world to tell him who he is. If you really think about it, the profile picture becomes a symbol. It's not about the image itself, it's about what it represents. It represents stability in a world of constant change. It represents confidence in a world full of doubt. It represents clarity in a world full of confusion. So the next time you feel the urge to constantly update your image, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, are you improving your life? Or just refreshing your appearance? Because at the end of the day, people don't remember how many times you changed your profile picture. They remember what you built. They remember how you lived. They remember who you became. And the man who doesn't change his profile picture, he is becoming someone unforgettable. At some point, the journey becomes lonely. Not because he has no people around him, but because very few truly understand him. The man who doesn't change his profile picture walks a different path. While the world is rushing toward attention, he is walking toward purpose. And that path is not crowded. It is quiet, often misunderstood, and sometimes even judged. But he has made peace with that. He knows that greatness has a cost, and that cost is comfort. It's the comfort of fitting in, the comfort of being liked by everyone, the comfort of always being part of the trend. He gave that up a long time ago, not because he had to, but because he chose something bigger. He chose growth over approval. There are days when even he questions himself, days when he wonders if staying silent is worth it, days when he sees others getting attention, recognition, and praise for doing less, and for a moment, it shakes him. But only for a moment, because deep down he knows that shortcuts don't lead to lasting success. He reminds himself that what is built slowly lasts longer, and what is earned through struggles more value than what is given easily. This man is not perfect. He has doubts. He has fears. He has moments of weakness. But the difference is, he doesn't let those moments define him. He doesn't run to distractions. He doesn't escape into temporary validation. He faces himself, and that is one of the hardest things a person can do. Facing yourself means accepting your flaws. It means acknowledging your mistakes. It means looking at the person in the mirror and saying, I need to do better, without blaming the world. And the man who doesn't change his profile picture does exactly that. Every single day, he works on becoming better than who he was yesterday. Not for the world, not for attention, but for himself. Over time, something begins to change. Not on his profile, not on his social media, but within him. His mindset becomes sharper. His discipline becomes stronger. His focus becomes unbreakable. And slowly, his life starts to reflect that inner transformation. People begin to notice, but not in the way he expected. They don't notice him because of a new picture or a new post. They notice him because of his results, his growth, his presence, the way he carries himself, the way he speaks with clarity, the way he handles pressure with calmness. That kind of presence cannot be edited or filtered. It is earned. And suddenly, the same people who once overlooked him start asking questions. What changed? How did you do it? What's your secret? But there is no secret. There is only consistency. There is only discipline. There is only the decision to focus on what truly lasts. A man who doesn't change his profile picture didn't wake up one day and become strong. He built himself day by day, choice by choice, habit by habit. While others were busy showing their lives, he was busy building his. And now the results speak louder than anything he could have ever posted. This is where the real message lies. It's not about the profile picture. It never was. It's about the mindset behind it. A mindset that says, I don't need to constantly show the world who I am. I will become someone the world cannot ignore. So if you feel like you're falling behind because you're not getting attention, if you feel like you're invisible because people don't notice you, if you feel like you're not enough because you're not being validated, remember this, man. Remember that real growth is invisible in the beginning. Remember that silence is not weakness. It is focus. Remember that you don't need to be seen to become powerful. Because one day your work, your discipline, and your growth will speak for you. And when they do, you won't need to change your profile picture. Your life itself will become the proof of who you are. In the end, it was never about the picture. It was never about the profile, the likes, the comments, or the attention. Those things were just noise, temporary distractions in a world that constantly demands to be impressed. The real story was always about the man behind the screen, the man who chose discipline over distraction, purpose over popularity, and growth over validation. Time passed, as it always does, turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and months quietly shaped years. While the world kept refreshing itself, updating its image again and again, he stayed focused. Not stuck, but grounded. Not inactive, but intentional, and slowly, almost silently, his life began to change. Not in a way that could be captured in a single picture, but in a way that could be felt. His mindset evolved beyond excuses. His habits replaced his doubts. His discipline became his identity. He was no longer the person he used to be. And yet, his profile picture remained the same, because he no longer needed to show change. He had become it. There's something deeply powerful about a man who builds himself in silence and lets his results make the noise. No announcements, no need for approval, just undeniable progress. And when that kind of man walks into a room, people feel it. Not because he demands attention, but because he commands respect. At some point, The same people who were once obsessed with appearances begin to realize something. They begin to feel tired. Tired of chasing attention. Tired of comparing themselves. Tired of trying to keep up an image that never truly satisfies them. And that's when they notice him again. But this time they see him differently. They don't see a man who never updated his profile. They see a man who updated his life. They see someone who didn't waste time trying to look successful, but became successful. Someone who didn't beg to be seen, but became impossible to ignore. And maybe, just maybe, that inspires them, because deep down, everyone knows the truth. You can edit a picture, but you cannot edit a weak mindset. You can filter an image, but you cannot filter a lack of discipline. You can post confidence, but you cannot fake inner strength for long. The man who doesn't change his profile picture understood this from the beginning. That's why he chose the harder path, the quieter path. And now, standing at the end of that journey, he doesn't feel the need to prove anything. Not to the world, not to anyone, because he has already proven it to himself. This is the final lesson. Stop focusing on how you appear and start focusing on who you are becoming. Stop chasing attention and start building value. Stop refreshing your image and start transforming your life. Because one day everything you've built in silence will come to light. And when it does, you won't need a new profile picture to show the world who you are. The world will already know. And even after everything he built, everything he became, there was one thing that never changed about him, his mindset. Not the picture, not the outer image, but the inner standard he held for himself. Because at the end of the day, the real victory was never external. It was internal. It was the quiet battle he fought every single day against laziness, against doubt, against the urge to settle for less. That was his real success. You see, most people think success is loud. They think it comes with applause, recognition, and attention. But the truth is, the strongest kind of success is silent. It's the kind that builds when no one is watching. It's the kind that doesn't need validation to feel real. And the man who doesn't change his profile picture lived in that silence long enough to understand its power. There were moments when nobody clapped for him. Moments when nobody noticed his effort. Moments when it felt like the world was moving ahead while he was still grinding in the background. But instead of giving up, he kept going. Because he was never doing it for them, he was doing it for himself. That's the shift most people never make. They live their entire lives reacting to the world, trying to impress, trying to fit in, trying to be accepted. But this man stepped out of that cycle. He stopped reacting and he started creating his habits, his discipline, his mindset, his future. And once you start creating your life instead of chasing approval, everything changes. He understood that real legacy is not built in public. It is built in private. It's built in the early mornings when you don't feel like waking up. It's built in the late nights when you don't feel like continuing. It's built in the small decisions that no one else sees, but that slowly shape who you become. That's where greatness is born. And one day, without any announcement, without any dramatic moment, it all came together. Not perfectly, but powerfully. He looked at his life, and for the first time, he didn't feel the need to compare himself to anyone. He didn't feel the need to prove anything. He didn't feel the need to update his image, because his life itself had become his message. There is a different kind of peace that comes when you stop chasing attention. A peace that is not dependent on likes, comments, or recognition. A peace that comes from knowing you are on the right path, even if it's slow, even if it's hard, even if no one else understands it. And that peace is priceless. The man who doesn't change his profile picture didn't just build success, he built clarity, he built self-respect. He built a version of himself that he could rely on no matter what life threw at him. And that's something no one can take away. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you're not being noticed, if you feel like your efforts are invisible, if you feel like you're behind in life because you're not getting attention, and understand this, you are not building. You are building. Every moment you spend improving yourself instead of seeking validation is an investment. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you are getting closer to a version of yourself that most people will never reach. But it requires patience. It requires belief. And most importantly, it requires consistency. Because in the end, it won't matter how often you changed your profile picture. What will matter is how much you changed yourself. And when your story is finally told, people won't remember your posts, your updates, or your online presence. They will remember your journey. They will remember your growth. They will remember the man you became. The man who didn't chase attention, but became worthy of it.